Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Alexis, and today I'm basically going to be gushing about everything that's love, everything that's basketball, everything that is Kennedy Ryan's Hoops series. Why, you may ask? Because last Thursday, a week from the day I'm putting this up, she had the special edition covers released, and I'm going to pop them right about here. They're so beautiful, and I'm so tempted to get them immediately, but I know I've been going a little crazy and need to watch myself with my spending habits. But I digress. They're still so beautiful, and I intend on getting them eventually. But just look at them. They're just reasons I want to gush about them. Well, we'll just have to get started, won't we? So, now before I get started on, actually gushing about the series, I'm going to mention that she'll be releasing 2 books this year, and I'm really excited. And I just started reading her books last year, and when I say I dove right into her backlist, I dove headfirst. I've read just about everything in her backlist, minus the Bennett series. I have yet to get my hands on those, but I'm anticipating the new ones so hard. It's just, they're already on my wish list. I'm not one to pre-order because then I'm worried about forgetting I purchased them and then all of a sudden I have multiple copies. Not trying to do that to myself. So I'm waiting until it's released, but man, it's so hard. And the first one that's due to come out this year will be part of the Hollywood Renaissance series. If you've seen her other book, Real, I'm going to place it right here. I read that last year and I do have my copy somewhere, but hey, this is supposed to be all about the Hoops series. I'm just going to mention it here. But the close up is supposed to be the novella about the Real's female lead's best friend slash hairstylist and her love interest, I believe, if I remember correctly. So yeah, that's due to come out on August 16th of 2022. And then the next book that is due to come out later this year will be Before I Let Go, and that's going to be part of her Skyland series. That's a new series for Kennedy Ryan. That will be the first book, and the cover has yet to be released. I have not noticed her say anything about it on her social platforms, but when I say I've been very attentive, I've been very attentive with what has been going on for my favorite authors, and she's one of them. So yeah, I'm just anticipating those, and I thought, if you're here, you might as well be aware of what's coming around, right? So moving forward, let's get into the actual series that I'm meant to be talking about here. Now, aside from Kennedy Ryan building this world with characters that we love that go through struggles and overcome them, they persevere. Aside from all those juicy details that she puts in, I also was able to relate to it in some way because growing up, I did play basketball from first grade to 10th grade. I did stop for reasons, but that's besides the point. I used to love playing that game. I was always a team player when it came to sports. Basketball and volleyball were my thing. Swimming a little bit, but we don't talk about that. That's kind of, forgotten. But basketball and volleyball were pretty much my thing. And when I read this book, or books, I should say, I couldn't help but think of Love and Basketball, which is a late 90s film, and this follows Quincy and Monica. They were neighbors growing up. They didn't really get along growing up, and it's not until high school that they start to acknowledge their attraction towards each other and get into a relationship. Then they go into college, their first year, but it doesn't last too long because then things start happening for Quincy's family, and there's parental issues. So lashes out, and Monica's not there for him in the way that he expects, so they inevitably break up. Then a few years later, after college, and they're both in the NBA and WNBA respectfully, they meet up again after things happen and go on from there. But that's just about the gist of the movie. I mind you, I grew up watching that. I grew up playing basketball, and this series was just giving all that love and basketball energy that I enjoyed. And for me, it is a classic movie that is under appreciated, that is underrated. It's just, it's such a good staple film. I highly recommend it. But with that being said, I love this series so much. Now, the first book I'm going to be talking about from the series is Longshot, and I will be placing the special edition cover up here because I want you to see why I want it. Like, can you see it? The just everything about it, the illustration, the chemistry with the characters, just everything about it, perfect. This, of course, we can still appreciate because men on the cover and the matte finish, and we just appreciate it, right? Anyways, this story follows August and Iris. Now, they do meet at a bar the night before a game, and August does have a great conversation with Iris, so much so that he does see potential in something further with them. But unfortunately, Iris is already in a relationship, and things don't go any further than that. Uh, at that time, anyway. So the next night, they run into each other again, and August finds out that Iris is, in fact, the girlfriend of his rival since childhood, another basketball player, rival team, and he is a jerk, not a good guy. That is most of what Iris has to go through with her storyline and her evolution as a character. She does go through some things. I will say definitely check trigger warnings for this book. They include verbal and physical assault, um, gaslighting, uh, betrayal in a lot of ways. But yeah, and some surprises. I'm not going to say what kind of surprises, but you can figure out what I'm alluding to again if you look into the trigger warnings. All in all, this book does have a lot of struggle, but when I say that the perseverance that Iris displays, that they display as a couple, is just such a beautiful thing to read through and to witness. I myself am not a survivor, but reading this and reading into her author's note, the research that she put into this, Kennedy Ryan did do her research in terms of how to build Iris as a character, as not a victim, but as a survivor. And I think this is a very important book for people who not just want to enjoy romance and find stories of, characters that are relatable and can be strong heroes or heroines or just people in general. And the fact that other readers who relate to Iris were able to push through it or able to overcome their fears or own limitations because of things that they've gone through in their past. I thought that was a beautiful thing to read about in other reviews. So if you're the type of person who wants to give those stories, a heavy story, a try, this is definitely it. I will say though, it is a heavy book with a heavy topic, and although I didn't go through it, I was still feeling it heavily for the characters. I can't relate, but I can definitely empathize for these characters. And I think that's the beautiful thing about romance books because you see the struggle, but you see the perseverance. And that is essentially what it's all about, people persevering and overcoming everything that is pinned against them. So, yeah, very great book and great starter to the series. The next book I'm going to be talking about is Blockshot, and again, I'm going to include the special edition cover over here. But this book follows Jared and Banner. Jared is the stepbrother of August from Longshot, and Banner is a Mexican American, somewhat plus size heroine in this book. I really enjoyed the representation in here. I enjoyed, the aspect of her uh, growing into her body and learning to love herself and being able to be vulnerable with Jared, who always appreciated her regardless of what size she was. He loved her as a person, and essentially they meet in college. Jared is really into her. But Banner doesn't see it yet, or she's always attracted to him, but she didn't allow herself to really take notice because she didn't think he'd be into her. But one day Jared is encouraged by a secret society of guys he's trying to make connections with, somewhat like a fraternity, but not really. They encourage him to hook up with the fat girl, and that fat girl being Banner. So he immediately rejects it, dismisses himself from the group, and seeks out Banner. But that night, the truth gets out, and of course, Banner shuts him out. Lack of communication there. Years later, they are still on outs, and Jared could never get over her, even though nothing had yet happened between them, anything further than that night. And Banner is already in a relationship with a great guy. But Jared is like, no, I had you first, and you were always meant to be mine. You will be mine again, type of energy. And I lived for it. I lived for this man. But again, this book is fictitious. We do not condone cheating in real life, but in a book, in a series, in a movie, we can appreciate the drama. And there was some drama in here. Aside from the cheating, I will also say that there are trigger warnings for illness, not between our leading characters, but illness of a loved one. And does get a little heavy in terms of, having to be willing to allow yourself to be happy despite hurting other people. And it's just, not everyone wins in here, but it's just, it was worth it. I mean, they persevered all in all, still love them. It is what it is. The next book I'm going to be talking about is Hoops Holiday. And this is actually a novella of the series. This did not get a special edition cover, at least not yet. And this follows Decker and Avery. They are side characters from the previous books. Think of ESPN hosts. That's how I imagine their positions, right? Or at least their career paths. And this book follows them, first meeting when Decker is still a rookie basketball player and Avery is just getting her start in journalism. They don't have nice first impressions. This does involve a locker room scene, and yeah, it's again, it's really short. It does tackle again some heavy topics in terms of suicide of a loved one, grief, moving on, things like that. But it is really short. It's quick, maybe afternoon read. Very enjoyable. Again, as you read the other books, you will grow to love these characters, even though they're not in there a lot. But I still enjoyed it nonetheless. So there you go. Last but certainly not least, I have Hookshot, and I'm going to put the special edition over here. This follows Keenan and Lotus. Lotus is the cousin of Iris from the first book, and Keenan is a more senior basketball player on August's team. He's nearly finished his career in the NBA, and he was always kind of attracted to Lotus and her energy since they met. But this follows them actually pursuing their relationship. So essentially, Lotus was going through childhood trauma. She was triggered during some sexual things with another partner. So she decides to go celibate. But lo and behold, as soon as it happens, they start to get involved. She and Keenan, and things go on from there. Keenan does have his own family issues in terms of his divorce and his child. There are some ex dramas in here, having to deal with those and how they handle it together. When they had to be apart, it just, you have to read it to understand, but it was just every single book in this series, I teared up at least a little, even in the novella, but this was the perfect conclusion to the series. I couldn't get enough of it. I will say that there are some triggers in here for rape. There's triggers for accidents or dangerous accidents, attempted suicide. There's just, it does tackle some heavy topics in here, but you'll just have to read it to understand. And I know it sounds like a lot, but you'll definitely get through it. And again, the books always end in a way that makes you feel positive about how they are going to be in their long term relationship and how things could potentially be for just society in general, just seeing how people are able to cope in healthy relationships, as hard as it is to believe nowadays. But, I digress. Still a worthy series. So, and that concludes my video for these books. I really enjoyed the Hoops series. I do see myself returning to it, if not soon. Definitely sometime in the future, because again, she's going to have 2 other books coming out this year, and I'm really excited for those. And I want to reread the Hollywood Renaissance book Real, which came out last year. Just so many great things. But this series definitely lives on in my head. There are scenes that play out in my head. If you want to talk about it, certainly comment down below. That is fine by me. But with that being said, I'm Alexis, and until next time, bye.